Good morning. Thank you. Thanks for coming. I'm Jana, and unfortunately, I'm an atheist. And I don't know about you, but I miss God sometimes. I feel like today there's a lot of things we have to do by ourselves. We have to love ourselves no matter what. We have to take care of ourselves, we have to do exercise and be vegan for the environment, be grateful, do something fun, enjoy life, spend time with our friends, a lot of things on our plate. And also, if we do something bad, or if other people do something bad, then we have to forgive ourselves and the others. And I don't know about you, but if you're a bike rider in Berlin, this might happen a lot. And I feel like if you look at social media, we even have to be our own gods, have to pray to ourselves. And this is why I miss God, because I think this was his job once. He loved us no matter what we did. If we fucked up, unfortunately slept with our best friend's wife, 5 Ave Maria, and everything was good again, we can start over, blank page. He even gave us something to pray to, his son. I don't know how he felt about it, but that's another story. But as we all know, religion fucked it up quite badly. So what do we do? Where can we put the things that we maybe regret? Where is space for that? And as I'm a very solution-oriented person, I thought I'd do something the church always did, because the church just stole rituals. So I thought, I steal a ritual from church. So I invented the Beichtomat. It's a mobile confession booth. So like in the church, people could step in. As you can see, there's a, now I try this thing. There's a curtain. And they could tell me their stories. It didn't have to be a sin. They could tell me what's on their mind. If it's a pattern they can't get rid of, or a story they can't forget, they could tell me that. And instead of a priest, I was sitting on the other side, and I was listening, and I tried to capture their story in one picture. I drew the story in one picture. And like in a photo booth, that's why it's called Beichtomat, a mobile confession booth, because at the end, here is this little Ausgabe sign. When I was finished with the drawing, the people received the drawing and they could take it home with them. And they could do whatever they wanted with it. They could burn it, they could, I don't know, put it in a drawer and never look at it again. They could also put it on a wall as a reminder, whatever they wanted to help, whatever helped them in their process. This is a little behind the scenes. This is what it looked like on my side. So before, most of the people always say oh, I don't have anything to confess. So I explained to them it's not the sin that as we know it from church. It's more, stories they wanted to tell me. And it was really super important for me to hold the space. It's not about learning something. It's not about changing something. It's really just accepting the story how it is and seeing the person where they are at this moment in time. This is how I transported it. And I went to 12 cities over Germany my whole last summer. The most important thing was to me not to judge and not to give advice. And it's funny because people didn't want that as well. They really saw that was what it was. They didn't want, just wanted to tell their story and then they wanted to leave again, which was what I liked because that's what I wanted with it. So yeah, because I think, so at the end of each session, I took a picture of the drawing, and I will share a few of these stories with you, because I think we all have those stories. We all have things we want to get rid of, we're maybe ashamed of, and by looking at other people's stories, we might feel relief too, because we're like, I'm not the only one who feels that way. And yeah, there's some patterns that came, why people had these stories, and it was one sometimes because we have to make decisions sometimes, and there is no right answer. So no matter what we choose, it might be hurtful to some person. Also, a lot of people said it's so hard to change patterns in our own behavior, especially like sometimes we're tired, or we're hurt, or we're hungry, or for whatever reason we can't always be as perfect as we want to be. And also, I think that's not a secret. Love makes us do stupid things. Before I share some of the stories with you, I'd just like to remind you that the people come to me and they trust me, and I wanted to give them as much empathy as possible, and I would like to invite you to do the same with the stories. And some stories might be funny, and it's totally fine to laugh, because sometimes if we feel relieved or if we feel like connected, it might be funny to us, and that's fine. But yeah, just keep in mind there's real people with real stories. The first story I'd like to share with you is a story by a young mother who came and said sometimes if her child cries at night, she feels anger, and she feels bad for feeling that anger, and then she bites into her pillow, and it feels good to give that anger space. And she loves her child a lot, and knows that it's not his fault, but also it's good to have some place for that anger. This is a story about an Egyptian man, and he was part of the protests in Egypt. And it was very important for him to stay anonymous during the protests, but a lot of his friends ended up in jail, and he managed to flee. But since that day, he feels guilty, and he said that sentence, that's damned if I do and damned if I don't. This woman shared a story about the pandemic where she, because all the things she normally would do, like spend time with her friends, have fun, she couldn't do. So what she did was just like eat all the things she could find, and she felt very guilty about it, but she just didn't find another solution during that time. So this man, he like traveled an hour to the booth. He found about it in the newspaper, and then he traveled for an hour to tell me that story. So him and his partner, they went to China for a few years, and they really wanted to have a pet. I don't know, it seemed hard to have a pet in China. So at the end, they decided for a rabbit. And at the end of their stay, they had to get rid of the rabbit again, and they wanted to find a good home for the rabbit, and they couldn't find someone who wanted to take the rabbit on. So they thought the most responsible thing to do was to kill the rabbit and eat it. So he found the most painless way in the internet. He researched how to kill a rabbit, so he put the rabbit over a broom and broke his neck, and then they did the whole thing. They ate the rabbit, and that's the last time he ate meat. He became vegan after that. This man felt really bad for a dream he had. He said like he had this dream of killing someone with expanding foam, and he was just so... it's weird. This shows something different here. Okay, good. Okay, thanks. So yeah, he killed someone with expanding foam in his dream, and he woke up and he was totally covered in sweat. And he was just so surprised because he didn't know where these pictures were coming from. And he felt bad because he said, like, I'm against violence. How could my brain imagine those pictures? This woman hasn't had any intimate relationship with anyone for 30 years. Because she, in her 20s, once had an intimate relationship with a woman, and she was accused of overstepping boundary. And she described herself as a very careful person and very scared person. And then, because this frightened her so much, she didn't dare to touch anyone after that. And that makes her very sad because she knows how important human touch is because she works as a nurse. This young woman came to Berlin from Australia, and in her friends' eyes, she seems to have like the perfect life right now. She's traveling to Europe, doing all the fun things, but the truth is she had a really hard time here. Her anxiety wouldn't just go away, her heartbreak wouldn't just go away, and her friend was very demanding, so she realized that traveling doesn't fix all your problems. Yeah, I guess getting older isn't easy, and this man had trouble with loving himself the way he is. And I heard this a lot, that somebody couldn't be the way he wanted to, and then on top of it, judging themselves, like someone who couldn't love themselves, and then judging for not being able to love yourself. I think this relates to what I said in the beginning, that we have to do all those things by ourselves that normally did someone else. Like God. Yeah, like this woman said, like, you know, the people tell you and like that you should love everyone and meditate. And she said, like, it's so hard in daily life to love everyone and not be judgmental about it. But these old patterns of judging people are just so strong, and sometimes it's not possible for her. This man has trouble with fulfilling the role as a man in the society. Like there's certain expectations you feel like there are, like being strong, being the conqueror. And he said he has a soft side too, and he just doesn't know where to put it. Yeah, so this woman said, like, in her normal life, she's very she's doing yoga and like eating healthy food and being very in the moment and reading important books. And sometimes she just secretly watches the Kardashians, but doesn't like. And then when her husband asked her if are you watching trash TV again? She said like, no, I wouldn't ever. Yeah, this is a story from the childhood of a young man. That he said like he had a phase in his life where he like got into fights with other boys a lot, and in one of those fights, one of the people they fought with had an epileptic seizure, and that they ran away, and he felt very, very guilty for doing that. This is a story from a young girl. She was like 11. Normally, the booth isn't really a thing for kids because kids don't understand the concept of sin, which is great. But when I try to explain to them what it is, they think it's a place where they can leave their sorrows. So this girl said, "I'm scared of death because he looks different every time," and that was very touching. I don't know how we're time-wise. Okay. This young woman said that when she thinks about her mom, she doesn't really feel something. Like she loves her, but she doesn't like her because her mom didn't really treat her well. She like when she didn't behave, when the daughter didn't behave the way the mother wanted, she said, like, I'm going to send you back to Brazil, and it was very violent. And so she feels bad about not loving her mom the way she's supposed to, she thinks. I guess that's relatable, like, to a lot of people, is the change of the story we grew up with, but also like how it is nowadays. He said, like, he feels that relationships are more a cycle of beginning and endings, whereas the story he grew up with is more the nuclear family with being married and having kids. And he's torn between those stories and doesn't know which path he wants to go. This woman said she's from a very she comes from a very conservative family, but she's actually bisexual, and she didn't dare to live that. And then once she went to Kit Kat in Berlin and enjoyed herself a lot. So sometimes people also come to the booth and just tell me stories, good stories, things when they overcome some patterns. This is a story about anger, and this woman said, like, as a woman, she feels like she's not really allowed to show anger, but she also feels like that anger is a very important motor for her, for being creative, and it's always difficult for her to find the right balance between having the anger, but also maybe like stopping it sometimes. And this man, his mother always said, if you inherit all the money, you'll probably just spend it. So when he did inherit the money, he just spent the money. He didn't do anything smart with it. He said, like, it's compensation money for the suffering he had to go through in his childhood. So he says he's having a good life right now. What did I learn from that? Like, a lot of people, I didn't expect that people would be so honest with me, and I think there's really a space lacking for showing our insecurities, sharing those stories, and people really needed that. And there's just something, as I said in the beginning, something so relieving about knowing that other people go through the same struggle. So yes, instead of a man, I say a woman. Thanks for listening. If you want to know more about the project, you can follow me on Instagram or on my website. Thank you.